a proper introduction for, if we can even muster that, for three people who have meant so much to so many of us. This is the second time that I have been privileged to be invited to MC this, and Alicia and Tom Landry were the honorees in 1998. And by the way, Alicia's here. Can we say hello to her? Where are you, Alicia? Stay right over here. Alicia Landry, ladies and gentlemen. Always great to see you, Alicia, and it is great to be reminded, especially the way things are right now, it's great to be reminded about the salad days, isn't it? But there were struggles before Tom Landry became Tom Landry. The Cowboys had to be built, and that's cyclical, and it's what they're going through. And in the process of that happening, legends are made on the sideline where the great coaches stand and on the field. And fans of the Cowboys have been really privileged to get to have these three men be not just part of our athletic lore, but in our community, part of our lives. Not only three terrific football players, but three really great people, wonderful human beings with senses of humor and opinions, and in the next few minutes you're going to hopefully get to learn a little bit about them. So shall we introduce them? First of all, from Southern Methodist University and Mount Vernon, Texas, number 17, Jeff and Hazel's baby boy, Don Meredith.
Thank you. Okay. All right. I'll go save a place for you. Thank you.
Find your shirt there, Dandy, and have a seat.
17.
There you go.
There, we got it.
From the Naval Academy, winner of the Heisman Trophy, number 12, Roger Staubach. From the University of California at Los Angeles, three-time Super Bowl champion, number 8, Troy Aikman.
You see that? You do Troy.
That's right. See, Troy, you find your shirt, and then you say, there you go.
He couldn't have done it. I had to help him.
I would have figured you for the one to be able to figure that out.
Yeah. You were wrong.
I was wrong, and it's not the first time. Now, in addition to having quarterbacked the Dallas Cowboys, each of these three men also has, at one time or another, worked in network television. Meredith's the only one who made movies, I believe. Aikman has one out, but he's got to have it back at Blockbuster by tomorrow.
How long did you work on that one?
My buddy Dale Hansen gave me that. He's back in the back of the room. Told me not to spend it all in one place. I would like to have each of you start off by talking about, and Troy, you can go first since this is your profession at the moment. Compare and contrast quarterbacking in the NFL and working on network television. You're in the A-team booth for Fox.
Well, I mean, it's dramatically different, no doubt about that. I think, like you and I were talking about a little bit earlier when we got here today, and when I came into the league as the number one pick, there was really a grace period for me, I know, and went through a year and a half, struggled. It seems like today the quarterbacks coming into this league are asked to perform at such a high level much sooner than what they did back when I came in 1989. I did the game this past weekend, the Giants and Eagles, and in the second half they were already booing Eli Manning, who was making his second NFL start. You know, Parcells had seen enough of Drew Henson, put him on the bench at halftime. You know, they're on Thanksgiving. So I think these quarterbacks are under an enormous amount of pressure as far as how that relates to broadcasting, the most frustrating part for me when I got into broadcasting was that there was no scoreboard for us, so we never knew whether we won or we lost. And I think that was one of the great things about playing the game of football, was that after the end of each game, when we came off, regardless of how we played individually, you could look up at the scoreboard and say, hey, all our efforts that week paid off, whereas in broadcasting, you don't get that. And now I've gotten more and more adjusted to it, but that's really, to me, the biggest difference as far as the effort and the workload going in. Not a lot has changed there, more mental gymnastics, obviously, than what it is physically going out and practicing, but those are the two differences that I've seen.
Now, some of you may have been sitting there thinking, oh, wait a minute, I know Meredith did Monday nights and Aikman did. What did Staubach do on television? Did you do a full year for CBS?
I actually did parts of 3 years with Frank Lieber 1 year, Dick Stockton, and Tom Brookshire.
So you've both, two guys have both worked with Dick
Right.
Stockton. You never
Yeah.
worked with Stockton, did you, Don?
Not on purpose.
Okay, yeah. Why did you just realize you were going to be able to own more of the world not being on television?
And one of the fun things I had with Dick Stockton 1 year, I mean, I enjoyed doing the broadcasting. We had him over for dinner one night. We were doing a Cowboy game, and our son Jeff was sitting there at the table. I don't know how old he was, 4 or 5 years old then. And he was sitting there, and he said to Dick Stockton, he said, "Why don't you let my dad talk more?" And so obviously Dick knew that he heard that from somebody. So Dick and I had a few problems after that, but I learned to be a good second guesser. Being in the box, in the press box there, looking at the game, you really see it's easy to say, why didn't he do this? And you see a replay, and why didn't he? You're looking at the quarterback or even other players. And then I really got an appreciation, because on the field, if you're there, even if you're on the sidelines, at that field level, it's a whole different game. It moves fast, players are big, and so I think the appreciation of playing and understanding what goes on the field and seeing it from that view, then seeing it from the view, looking at it on TV or at those angles, really make a difference. And I think you appreciate the players more if you actually do it on the field, and it's easy to become a second guesser, whether it's a broadcaster like you or watching it on TV. So
How should I take that?
I'll tell you in a minute. Yeah.
or as Dale, did you say Dale was out there? Whatever. So it really is a different game looking at it like this than like that, and that's what I saw as being an announcer that I appreciated.
Okay. Now, Don, you're kind of used to looking at things from like that anyway, from early days with the Cowboys, probably. But this guy, of course, had to work with got to work with Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford on Monday Night Football. That was almost more like show business than sportscasting for a while, wasn't it?
It wasn't show business.
It was, actually.
I thought so. Yeah, I really. Well, that group that you're talking about was such a fun thing to do, and as I've said many times, we just tried not to let the game get in our way. And, pretty much that's how we took it. Isn't that right?
Now I know that Troy looks at tape all week long. He looks at tape of the two teams that are playing in his game, and then he goes into production meetings. And what was your typical work week like going into? You people are way ahead of us now. You may be having more fun, but I doubt it. But what was your typical work week like?
Really worked really hard to try to find out in what town or city the next game was in. And then we'd try very hard to get there as comfortably as we could without changing planes. Then try to find a hotel. And then that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever physical pain you went through playing, was it worth it to put you in position to do that Monday night stuff you did?
In what way do you mean worth it?
Not financially.
Oh, I had a great time doing it. Came along at a good time, good timing, and I think timing is a real key to everything. And happened to be at the right place at the right time, and it was fun. Glad I got a chance to do it, and I really didn't want the game to get in my way too much because it was pretty much fun. Had a good time.
That does bring me to another question I'd like you to answer first, and I'd seriously like all three of you to address this. The game, while being essentially the same sport, same rules, but it's a much different game from the time Don played it. There's more pressure, there's certainly more visibility, there's clearly a lot more money. Would you rather have played Don Meredith in 1965 or 2005?
I honestly am very happy with where I am right now in my life. I'm very happy with where I've been in my life. And whatever year that was, I'm happy that I could play that year. And I mean that.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Roger?
Well, I want to thank publicly Don Meredith for retiring in 1969. Because if he doesn't retire, I wouldn't be here today. So he retired, and I was a rookie, and I lucked out. He really was the foundation that built the team to giving us a chance to win, which we did in the 70s. And he started at about 65 or 66 after he took all the punishment. So there was a great foundation built, and I really enjoyed the 70s. The only thing I would enjoy about today, which the rules really make it advantageous for a quarterback today when you don't hit receivers downfield to be able to complete more passes. The thing is, the pass rush obviously is the name of the game, so you can disrupt the quarterback because you have enough time. You're going to hit receivers the way the rules have changed, so it'd be fun trying to buy a little time in the pocket and hit guys downfield that were today that, you know, Drew Pearson would be having a lot of fun running free down there versus the old days. So I think the rule changes, it would be fun playing under these rules for a quarterback versus the 70s. But the 70s with the Dallas Cowboys were as good as it gets for me getting that opportunity. And I thank Don for it, by the way.
You're more than welcome.
65 or 2005?
You know, I think, I'm a little bit like Don. I'm certainly happy during the period that I got to play. I don't know that during the years that Don Meredith was playing that it was necessarily a time where there wasn't a lot of pressure. I think Don would probably tell you that there was still pressure to go out and perform. Now, I also think that from everything I've learned about him and been told about him that he did everything he could to not feel that pressure. And you know, it has certainly gotten more over the years. I mean, there's certainly more money involved. There's a tremendous amount of pressure on these young players currently to go out and play at a high level, and that'll continue to happen as long as the salaries are what they are, and there's an amount of money that's being made on both ends. But you know, for me, I don't know that I would have necessarily had a choice as to when I played. I was happy that I played when I did.
Don thought that was a nice way for you to put that, by the way, about doing what he could to not feel the
Thank you very much.
pressure. He appreciated that.
The other thing I was going to mention, you know, with Troy on my starboard side over here.
Starboard?
That's the right
It's a
side.
Navy.
Right,
Left
right,
side.
right.
Left side is a port side.
Port. I'm port.
Is
Did you want to
Troy recreated the opportunities that we've had as the Cowboys to have, you know, success through a long period of time from the mid-'60s on, and he also beat the Steelers, so I want to get that in.
Yeah.
Because when we look back in a few years, especially being at a seniors luncheon, people won't remember that, you know, I can say, hey, we beat the Steelers, and we as the Cowboys.
Well, I got to tell you, well, you're welcome. And, you know, a colleague of mine, Terry Bradshaw, every time I see him, he says, when's Roger going to get over the fact that we beat them? I said, I don't think he is.
Well, he's on Prozac, so what does he want?
That's good. That was good. That was good.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
I haven't had to go on it yet. So.
See, it's this side of Staubach that really Marianne only knows. That comes out sometimes. He's got this evil twin that comes out.
She said my greatest asset is my sense of humor, so I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
I don't either. I'd like to ask each of you a question that Don and I actually rehearsed earlier. And that is, and I'll start with Don.
Uh-oh.
Because the great thing about Don is he may not give you the same answer that you rehearsed.
If you'd been hitting the head as much as I was, you wouldn't remember them either. So, let's try it. Right, Perry?
Who's the greatest athlete you ever saw?
Let's see, is there a mirror around here? That was kind of a setup, but it truly is Mikhail Baryshnikov. And I'm not trying to be funny.
Who did he play for?
Yeah, man, he could have played for anybody. He would. Baryshnikov is the greatest athlete I've ever seen. Nureyev was second, and Michael Jordan was third. And Staubach and these guys tied for fourth.
For fourth.
Yeah.
And did the ballet come through Mount Vernon? Is that where you saw
We
that?
used to go to ballet on Mount Vernon on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Well, we won't dwell there. But I just had never really seen that much in Mount Vernon, and I was fortunate enough to see Mikhail Baryshnikov dance when he was still young, and I just truly could not get over what a person could do with how strong, graceful, and all that sort of stuff. Why are we talking about that?
Well,
Okay, it was a
thought
good
you
trip.
asked me to ask you.
Okay, ask me.
Who's the greatest athlete you ever saw?
Pat Donnelly.
Yeah.
He scored 2 touchdowns. We beat last time we beat Notre Dame in 1963 with 35-14. Then he scored 3 touchdowns. We beat Army 21-15 that year. So that's who Pat Donnelly is, by the way. I'm sorry.
No, hey, it's your list. Your list.
I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah. You never saw Baryshnikov, did you?
I don't. Is he the guy that wore those tight pants?
Yeah, those real tight pants. Yeah.
I think I remember him.
Yeah. He used to come in and out of the locker rooms and stuff.
I don't want to pick on him.
No,
I would take Michael Jordan. I mean,
Okay.
I've never seen anything like
Yeah.
the years he played and how he dominated one sport. Or Muhammad Ali in boxing, I guess. You know, you could throw out a lot of names.
I would say Shaquille O'Neal or our own Herschel Walker. You know, I think the basketball players are the best athletes by far as far as professional sports are concerned. And you know, I think when you consider what Herschel Walker was able to do, pretty gifted athlete himself.
Now, you threw out before the conversation about what's going on with the Cowboys quarterback. Now, each of these guys, in one way or another, was involved in some kind of quarterback controversy. Coaches never seem to be able to quite get that right. Tom Landry had a heck of a time. Now, I never saw him play quarterback, Alicia. You did, but I was told that before he hurt his thumb, Tom was an outstanding quarterback. And I was told by people who watched in the early 60s that he kept waiting for one of you two guys to be as good as he thought he would have been if he hadn't got hurt. What is it about the position that coaches, Roger, seem to grapple with so much?
Well, it's a position that takes in consideration not just how physically you can play the game, it's being able to get the commitment of your teammates to believe in you. And I competed with Don, the guy that Don really trained. Craig Morton was with Don for 4 years, and Craig was ready to take over the Cowboys. In fact, he got off to a sensational start. He separated his shoulder, and he went back and forth with some injuries, so it was a matter of time. And I knew that I was going to play in the NFL, but I honestly didn't think I was going to play with the Dallas Cowboys because Craig had taken over and he was groomed to be the starting quarterback. Without the injuries, it would have been so. His injuries really created the controversy because until he was hurt, he was a very dominant, very outstanding football player. And so then we had some struggles, and then the controversy started. So once it starts, though, it's just hard to And we were different styles. I mean, I was running, so I'm sure people, just like my teammates, I'm sure some wanted Craig, some wanted me, and people in the stands say, well, I like the way he runs, but, you know, so Tom has to evaluate who's the guy that's going to win the football game and be the future, and it could have gone either one of us. Actually, when Craig was traded, I'm sure it was a tough decision for Coach Landry.
Now, what was it like for you when you alternated plays in that game?
That's when Alicia. That's where I think Tom had a flame out that day. We were alternating games, and then all of a sudden we had just lost to the Bears, or we lost the week before, and we were playing the Bears, and he announces in the team meeting that we were going to alternate plays. We were going to play because we both have been playing pretty well. There was a divided team, really, is what it amounted to, and so. You know, I mean, Craig, you know, he was sitting, I'll never forget, in the meeting room, he was sitting right over here, and I was sitting right here, and he just looked around at me, and I looked at him. I said, what did he just say? So it was one of Tom's decisions that I think if he had another choice, he wouldn't have made alternating plays a decision, because it really messed up the thinking of the players as who their guy was in the huddle, and it just didn't work.
Don, why do you think coaches have tough times sometimes understanding the quarterback position?
Why do I think
coaches have a tough time understanding?
I didn't know they did. You think sometimes they do?
Sometimes it looks like they're not quite sure what they want to do.
I haven't met many coaches that wouldn't have loved to have been quarterback in the fourth quarter, just as they threw the 65-yarder to Hayes, and he went across, and you win. Coaches like that stuff. But they don't like the third down and 12 stuff too much, I don't think. I don't care how many quarterbacks you have in there. Yeah.
And it's an interesting point because not many former successful quarterbacks are coaches. Maybe they're too smart. But why? I mean, Jimmy had trouble figuring out between you, and you don't think they're too smart?
I'm just thinking about it. I'm not sure who you were talking about, the coaches or the coach. Look, I'm Donnie Medicare, all right?
Okay.
I'm heading down Route 66.
Okay.
I can't remember a lot of stuff, so go slow with it.
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'll back up.
Okay, all right.
Jimmy, huh?
You're saying you're surprised Don didn't go into coaching?
Don did exactly what he should have done, as did you. But Jimmy couldn't make his mind up between you and Steve Walsh for a couple of years. I know you hate to be reminded of that, but I mean, it seemed like such an obvious choice to all the rest of us who wanted to help. Why do you think a coach has difficulty figuring the position out?
You know, it's hard to say. I think it's obvious oftentimes after the fact, and when you're, you know, all around the league right now, as we're seeing here in Dallas, and the other teams that are trying to evaluate young players, and there is just there's no real science to it. I mean, I just always point to, you know, it goes beyond just talent. I think when you're taking a guy in the first round or second round, I mean, all these quarterbacks in the NFL have talent. And then you say, okay, well, if they all have talent, then what separates them? And you know, it's always the intangibles, the immeasurables, the things that you can't really put your finger on. In addition to that, you got to have a good supporting cast, and you got to be put in a system that allows you to flourish and be productive, and you know, all of those things. There's no doubt in my mind that if Norv Turner hadn't come in as our offensive coordinator in 1991, my third season, I don't think there's any doubt that we would not have gone on to have the success that we had. I don't know that we would have won any Super Bowls. And so there's a lot of different things. Take Steve Young, for example. If he had never left Tampa Bay and he had not gone to San Francisco, more than likely he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. And as great as Peyton Manning is, and I think the absolute world of him, and I wish Archie and his wife Olivia had about 10 more sons, because this league could use a lot more of them, and they're great ambassadors to the National Football League. But having said that, he's got a lot of weapons on that team, and so all those factors play into it, and coaches have their own opinions as far as what's necessary at that position. It's hard, and that's why there's so many times that teams are wrong on the people that they pick.
And by way of wrapping this up, because everybody in here is a Cowboy fan at one extreme or another. Now, you've made your views clear on television. You think Bill Parcells made a mistake by making a change at halftime?
Well, no, I don't. I don't know that I necessarily said that he made a mistake. I understand trying to win. I understand that you can't jeopardize a season of 52 players just for the sake of getting one guy some playing experience. But this team had lost, 6 in a row, I think, prior to the Thanksgiving game. And so even when you say, well, we're trying to go out and win, they weren't winning. And I know that on Thanksgiving, it seemed to have bred a lot of hope into the Cowboy fans because they won a football game. But, and I'm the first guy to say it's hard to win a National Football League, but they beat the Chicago Bears, who aren't real good.
Can I mention just one? My second year with the Cowboys, Craig was hurt at the beginning of the year, and he came back by the third game. So I played the first game, we won. The second game, we were losing at halftime to the Giants. And we were in the Cotton Bowl. We were walking up the ramp or walking into the locker room, and Coach came up to me and he said, I'm going to put Craig in the second half. And I said, Coach, if you do anything, if you believe in me, please don't put him in. You can play him next week, the rest of the season, but please don't put him in the second half. Talking to him, and Coach Landry, who is the best, he actually, and sometimes he didn't listen to you. God love him, but he did. He hadn't said anything to anybody else except to me walking in there, and he allowed me to play the second half. And we beat the Giants. Craig came in the rest of the season and did great. We went to the Super Bowl that year. And so I think if they believe in Henson, I think it was a terrible mistake taking him out at halftime. That's my opinion on past experience. 7-7. If it was, so I think that was personally a mistake.